Afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Axon Bulletin. It's Tuesday afternoon. It's Champions League night. It's likely to be our last Champions League night at Celtic Park this season, but we're all hoping for a Celtic victory. It's myself, Declan McConville, joined by Lawrence Conley. We're going to have a second half substitute. Lawrence is going to have to jump off, so Paul John will be joining me for the second half of the show. But Lawrence, here we are after another two victories, because obviously we were on last Tuesday through the semi-final of the Cup to face Kilmarnock, where we've extended our lead at the top of the table after a 4-3 victory at Tynecastle, and we're back in Champions League. Due to the games are really coming thick and fast just now for the Hoops.
Yeah, indeed, and teams just rising to the challenge. It doesn't matter who Ange is putting that first 11. They're showing they can handle it, can't they? It's just been really exciting, if somewhat bewildering at times to watch. But it's just cracking and really looking forward to tonight.
Bewildering, Lawrence. I wonder what you could be talking about. I wonder if that'll be something that we're talking about very shortly. But as our tagline goes, as Ange shatters glass ceiling comments, can Celtic pull off Shakhtar win? If you haven't seen some of Ange's press conference comments from yesterday, he was kind of asked by a journalist about, Scottish football and Celtic reaching a glass ceiling in the Champions League. If this is it, and he said back to the journalist, you talk about glass ceilings, well, what are the chances of an Australian coach managing in the Champions League? I've broken through so many glass ceilings that I know that they don't really exist. They only exist in your own ambitions, whether that is Europa League or Champions League. My thing is to say that if a football club of our size goes out there and plays football that everyone talks about, irrespective of the opposition, wouldn't that be a great thing? A club like Celtic is playing the biggest clubs in the world, and people are talking about how we are playing. I think there is something in that. With that, you obviously want success and you want to win games of football, but I think there is great merit in doing things that people don't expect you to do. And why not for Scottish clubs? Why not for us? I see no reason why we can do that. I think he's absolutely spot on with those kind of comments, Lawrence. This has been the first time Celtic's been back in this competition for 5 years. We've been on each week, both you and I, either on the day of the game or on the eve of a Champions League game, whether that's home or away. The results haven't been what we've wanted them to be, but I would say there's been clear progress made in this competition. And I think for me, tonight's really important in the sense that if we do get a win tonight, it's a building step towards probably next season's European ambitions and possibly this season's European ambitions. We're still in it mathematically, but we do need to win tonight if we want any chance at all being in the Europa League.
Yeah, we're back in it, and although the results haven't been what we wanted, we're competing, and we're competing with some style. It's better than getting there and just being absolutely hammered. We're playing a brand of football that we all want to see. I suppose beginning of last season, it was the same in the league. People were saying Ange would need to change. This football won't work. Not in Scotland. It's all right. It's too open. But he's stuck with it. As he'll tell you, he's done his whole career. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a learning curve for us. But the players have competed during those games. We just need a 90-minute performance from them. Shakhtar, I think we should have, if we'd taken most games, if we'd taken our chances, it'd been different. But I think Shakhtar aren't as strong as Leipzig or Madrid. So, yeah, I'd expect us to win tonight. I think it'll be dangerous on the break. But, we're heading in good form. Crowd behind us. I think it would be a Celtic win.
A big part of that good form, Lawrence, has obviously been 3 domestic games on the bounce, which is something, we had to win all 3. We've did that. We hammered Hibs 6-1, 4-0 victory at Fir Park, and then the 4-3 win at Tynecastle on Saturday. That was something that Celtic hadn't done till the end of August, early September time, and I think momentum with this team is really, really important. Would you agree with that? That getting those 3 wins under our belt and possibly making it 4 tonight, really, really helps the group in terms of that momentum. That was something we did so well last season after that defeat at Livingston, going on that run. I know there was a few European matches in amongst that maybe we didn't get the results that we required, but this team seems to really thrive in momentum, and I think that will help us carrying that momentum into the game tonight.
Well, listen, the momentum's, it's a result of performances, isn't it? And we're picking up the ones because individuals are stepping up to the plate. Giakoumakis is in form. James Forrest, many people, but not you and I, Declan, had written him off. And he's in there. He's scoring goals. He's looking like James Forrest of old. I think we spoke end of last season. where we said, definitely worth a new contract, but he's probably going to be a squad player. But I'd expect him to start tonight, just the form he's in. And for the experience in the Champions League. It's a fairly young team we've got. There's not a lot of experience there, Champions League experience there. Callum's still out, so I think Joe Hart, probably Tony Ralston, had a bit earlier in his career, and James Forrest. The guys coming with experience at this level. So I'd expect him to start.
Yeah, let's talk about that then. James Forrest, obviously 101 goals for Celtic at the weekend. He gets the opener against Hearts. I think this is one that you're maybe looking at Ange Postecoglou, and we'll come on to some other players with this, but he seems to give you kind of hints, Lawrence, before a game, what your next lineup's likely to be. You've seen that with the rotation at Motherwell, then you go to Tynecastle and you make 5 or 6 changes once again. I think that'll happen tonight. I think there could be 5 or 6 changes. Forrest is an interesting one because I think he played just over 65 minutes at the weekend. He's got his goal. But I'd agree with you in this point, and I think this is a bit of what you kind of get to, that the experience we know Callum McGregor in the team is really, really important. And something that the Celtic team has been accused of, and the manager's even owned up to, is being inexperienced at this level. And James Forrest is the only player, in terms of Celtic. Obviously, you've mentioned Joe Hart there, but with Manchester City in that category, it's been there and done it in the big night at Celtic Park. And for me, with the bit of form that he's in, I would start him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He's in cracking form. He's got the experience, and I think Ange just talked about that, where we stopped playing a football and started going back. James is maybe, he's not going to be overawed by the occasion, and he's going to be able to spot it happening in a park and get a message to his teammate to keep playing football. But, the other players will have learned from the games that they've played so far. It's a steep learning curve for them. And Moyes looked amazing as well last few games. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see the lineup tonight. But definitely getting in good form, and I think everyone's expecting us to win at home.
In terms of the rotation that I spoke about, Lawrence, have you noticed that recently? You kind of get that hint from the manager. I think Georgios Giakoumakis played 90 minutes at the weekend at Tynecastle. I really don't expect him to start tonight. Would you agree with that?
I think he'll bring Kyogo in, but I think he's getting happier with the squad in his comments in terms of where they are fitness-wise and how ready they are to step in and replace. So, he's made a few comments about Abelgard will be making big impact soon. Bernabeu's not his greatest game at Tynecastle, but he's starting to get a bit of a run. So, I think he's a lot happier that he's got cover in every position.
In terms of that rotation, in terms of covering every position, I go back to the St Mirren game last month, and I think possibly at that point, when we were all looking, before an international break, he made so many changes to the team. I think all Celtic fans are looking at him and thinking, why are you making so many changes at this point in time, especially with an international break coming up? But I think I'm probably the belief there with what you issue in this one, Lawrence. Do you think the manager maybe got a wee bit ahead of himself in thinking that some of those guys were ready at that point, whereas they just weren't? And if he'd have probably made the same kind of rotation to the team that currently exists then, in terms of the form they're at, in terms of where their fitness is at, he probably wouldn't have had that bad afternoon in Paisley.
So, it was a first loss in 38 domestic games in the league. A few players were off it, but the question is, how do you get them up to speed? You talk to some former players and say, look, you really need game time. So, would they be more confident he was making the changes now if it was a St Mirren game now? Yeah, definitely, but I was a bit surprised they made as many changes, but 1 in 38 and a few players off it. But unfortunate, I think with the second goal especially, and things just went falling for us. So I think it's a combination of things, but the players should have been there up to speed to be able to take advantage of getting a start. They're probably closer now, but that's a result of getting game time and St Mirren's part of that, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's, in terms of resilience and character, two of the biggest characteristics you saw in Celtic's performance at the weekend. You saw a lot more of that in the team. I think that started to grow probably ever since that St Mirren defeat. For some of the lads that had came in, there was a good whack of them in terms of guys like Maeda and Hatate and all the new arrivals in the summer. Your Aaron Moyes, Sead Haksabanovic that had came in, hadn't tasted defeat with Celtic. For a lot of the guys that had been there and done it last season, they'd had that rocky spell the defeat of Beatty Livingston, and sometimes that can make you stronger as a team. But we'll go back to Georgios Giakoumakis. Kind of looking at his goal scoring record, another goal at the weekend, great header from the ball from Aaron Moy, but it's 20 starts and 24 goals. This is an incredible record from this guy.
Yeah, listen, and I suppose one of Ange's teams, the amount of chances you create, although it's incredible, you can see why, because the volume of chances we're creating. But he's still putting the back in it, isn't he? He's still there. I think it's a position we'll probably look to strengthen at the winter transfer window. But yeah, his numbers are fantastic, but Ange's teams are set up to score a lot of goals. So I suppose it's no surprise that your striker gets good numbers. They're set up to get in the opposition penalty box, create chances. What may be surprising is the lack of penalties we get, but for a team that's so attacking and spends so often in the opposition box. But yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that strikers getting a lot of goals.
In terms of Giakoumakis, Lawrence, I think it really suits him. He's getting a game every 3 days or whatever it is. With the rotation that's coming into the team, I imagine he will come on at some point tonight. But for me, when he is at his best, it is that consistent run. You saw that towards the end of last season when he came into the team and Kyogo was out. Why do you think it is that Ange possibly prefers to play Kyogo in a game like tonight? Is it that high press? What do you think it is?
I think it's the high press. Whoever he starts with is going to need a rest at some point. I think that's really what comes into it. He's maybe thinking he's needing someone a bit more guile up front. Maybe that's why he chooses Kyogo. But yeah, I think in Champions League, we know the striker's going to change at some point. So I think you're right. I think he probably will go with Kyogo just because Giakoumakis had the 90 minutes. But you could always surprise us and start. I think he seems to trust Kyogo more. He's still got a way to go to get to last season's heights, Kyogo, though. I'd say your informed strikers, Giakoumakis, and I think probably the numbers bear that out. But yeah, he's got. I think he'll start with Kyogo and bring Giakoumakis off. That being said, though.
Yeah, let's bring in some of our contributors in the chat. Bob McMillan coming in, usual Tuesday regular. Kyogo has better movement in his opinion, and we've also got Michael McDonald in to say Kyogo not GG to start for me. He's a better finisher. That's what is required tonight. Lawrence, do you think there is a better finisher out of the two of them? I'm quite balanced in both of them. I think that record speaks volumes for Giakoumakis, but I'm also in agreement with yourself in that I don't think both of them, as of yet, have probably hit their heights this season for Celtic.
I think Giakoumakis is a more natural striker. But we will tell you, Japanese football, Kyogo was mostly played as a winger. So I think if you to look at one of them as an out-and-out striker and finisher, yeah, I would say it's Giakoumakis. I don't think Kyogo really falls into an out-and-out striker mould. But, I'd love him to start with Giakoumakis, but I can't say it just because he had the 90. I think you're right. I think he'll bring Kyogo on. His movement seems to be a wee bit more clever, and I think that's probably who we'll start with. But confident if Giakoumakis comes on, he'll get chances.
Yeah. Paul Andrew Martin coming in here to say good movement is far more important than mixing it up. I think that's with a previous contributor's point in Giakoumakis mixing it up a bit. He likes to come deep for the ball. He's able to be an outlet for Joe Hart when he's playing the ball up the park. We've also got a comment coming in here to say Kyogo's not get his shooting boots on just now. GG starts for me. And Derek coming in here to say, why not bring Kyogo on the left with Gio up front? Lawrence, do you think that's something we're going to possibly see at some point this season? We know the kind of structure of a Celtic team just now is set in that 4-3-3, but as you previously just touched on there, Kyogo has played out on the left-hand side in Japan in the J-League, and he also featured for Celtic on the left-hand side very early on at the start of his career at Celtic. If you remember that game at Ibrox when Ange came out after it holding his hands up saying, I still played Kyogo through the middle rather than Edouard through there.
Yeah, I think that was it. He was playing Edouard, was mistake, not Kyogo on the left, because I thought he did a decent show on the left. I mean, he put one in the plate for Edouard, and his head wasn't in it, Edouard, was it? So, yeah, I think we'll see it at some point. I'd like to see that, but we've got a lot of competitions on the wings. I don't think we'll see it tonight. I think we're going to need Maeda's work rate
Yeah, Dyson Maeda's a player who we'll maybe get on to. Getting a goal at the weekend, I think will do him the world of good in terms of confidence wise. But to bring that into the mix, Lawrence, Kyogo got that goal at Motherwell last week. He missed what would have been a harder chance to miss rather than putting the back of the net. And he has that shot that whacks off the crossbar and eventually gets his goal after Abada hits the post. A great assist, by the way, from Lila Abada, that one. But I think that'll do Kyogo the world of good just to get that goal. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I thought when he wrapped the crossbar, I thought actually that's going to give him a lot of confidence. That was a cracking, bit of play from him. Totally unexpected and unlucky not to score. But I thought, you know what, the wee man's maybe back in amongst it, because the earlier miss was sliding a by post. It was a bad miss, and that was the easy one to score. But he's got a goal. He's got I don't know what the Scottish press would have been calling it, goal drought off his
definitely
back.
a drought. That's what it would have been dubbed as, yeah.
Yeah, they called it something like that. I seem to remember a Celtic striker going through a 2-game goal drought at one point. But his confidence got pretty high. And he'll be looking forward to playing tonight, I think, Champions League. All the players want to play at the top level, don't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sure they do. And even, when we're talking about experience, Lawrence Kyogo, I think it's easy to forget, is probably one of the most experienced guys in terms of age. But within the team, he's one of the older players, as easy as that is to forget. So having that in your team is also important. But, I think for me, whoever you go with, I think it's going to cause any team's problems. But I just think, as I mentioned earlier, with Giakoumakis being given the 90 at Tynecastle on Saturday, I just don't see him starting tonight. Just due to that hint that Ange Postecoglou basically gives you before games. Dyson Maeda, another goal at the weekend. Something, what to touch on this. Something we've not done too often recently, as taking shots from outside the box and falling in with it. We've got plenty of players that can go and do it. I mean, we get that goal from it on Saturday, and again, Maeda, I think that's 2 and 3 now for him. And he's starting to look a wee bit more like his old self. He made that goal that we're talking about that Kyogo got in last Wednesday night. With his high pressing, we know how good he is at that. And he took that goal on Saturday really, really well. Craig Gordon had no chance.
Yeah, striker's finish, wasn't it? But I suppose he's the opposite from Kyogo, isn't he? Played through the middle in Japan and out wide here. And another player that's maybe not hit last season's form, but he always gives his all. And it's great to see him finish. I was just shocked that the VAR official wasn't going to chop it off for some imaginary foul.
I actually looked right away at the linesman because I thought, don't tell me he's offside, but thankfully not. And he seemed to enjoy it. I don't think anybody enjoyed it though as much as Kyogo, who was going absolutely mental in front of us in that Roseburn stand on Saturday. I think if he could have jumped the barrier and jumped in with us, he was going absolutely tonto, especially at that Greg Taylor goal. Just to bring in a wee bit about Maeda, Pat Dolan coming in here to say it's not what Maeda does on the ball, it's the work he does off it. Runs defenders ragged. Never seen such a player for Celtic. Pest of the highest order. He certainly is that. Another comment coming in saying that they believe that Kyogo will start. Kevin Graham was also in agreement with that too. It's good that we've got these options, Lawrence, up front. We're not struggling for players in these positions. Just to bring in this one, Haksabanovic, again, came off the bench on Saturday, didn't start the game. I think that's a good indication that he'll start tonight. Where do you see him playing tonight? Is he going to start out in that left wing? We've seen him play a wee bit more often. Obviously, in the game against Hibs last week against Motherwell, didn't start at the weekend. Do you see him playing out in the wing, or does he go into midfield? And if you're in the comments, let us know what you think in this one too.
I'd like to start in midfield tonight. Midfield of O'Reilly, Hatate, and Haksabanovic. I think Moy will be unlucky to drop out, but that's what I'd like to start, because I like to start Jamesy and Maeda. So it's hard to get. Obviously, we can't fit them all in the team. So decisions to be made by Ange.
Robert Highland asking that one. I think Aaron Moy actually keeps his place. I know he missed a sitter at the weekend. Picked Giakoumakis out with a great ball. I'm keeping them in my team, Lawrence. We'll get a bit of debate here on Tuesday. As I say, if you're in the comments, let us know what you think in this one. I think we're talking about experience and whatnot. I think Moy's starting to get up to it a wee bit more. And I thought Rio Hatate, who was possibly my man of the match in and Saturday I thought he was excellent. I think Moy just brings a better balance to the midfield. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think what Moy brings, people are saying, he's slow and doesn't turn quick enough, but I think he's still got a cracking work rate and his experience, and just some of his passes, they're absolutely exquisite, finding a striker with a ball. So definitely I think he brings a lot to it. I just think tonight, maybe that lack of speed will cost him his place. I think Haksabanovic is a bit quicker than him. And Moyes played a lot of minutes against Hearts, so I think he maybe start with Haksabanovic.
I definitely think Haksabanovic will start the game tonight. Paul Andrew Martin coming in here to say prefers Haksabanovic and the wing more forward, ball progressing. He's a player I've been really impressed with, Lawrence. And again, you touched on it earlier on when we were talking about that. I was reading some Ange Postecoglou's comments, and he picked out Haksabanovic, Morgan Abelgard as players that they brought in, knowing that they would basically peak at the second part of the season. Found that really, really interesting.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it means we're still going to get transfers. It's not the opposite. Oh, I've got these three in and now they're peaking and they don't need people. But listen, two of them we can definitely see are getting better week in week. Abelgard is still to be seen. We kind of, I suppose, Ange is touching that. We knew he'd been trained by himself and he was going to be the furthest away from getting up to speed. So, yeah, let's hope so. They kick on. In spite of officialdom, we've got a 4-point gap at the league, a bit of comfort again. And if these players kick on, I don't see kind of as losing anything in the league. I think that should be secure for us to go to another title. But I suppose it's really tonight you want to see what level we can step up to, because we know that we can do it in Scotland. I mean, the St Mirren game, first defeat in 38 in the league, so we know the good consistency in the league and the players that can do it. It's Champions League we want to see. We want to get that one done.
In terms of Haksabanovic, let's bring some comments in on him. Haksabanovic causes problems really like he makes a paste of himself. One of the things I like about him, Lawrence, and the reason why I would think he should start tonight anyway, is his versatility. He can play in either wing and he can play in midfield, and he just gives the manager another option. And at this level of football, I think you need your players to be versatile.
Yeah, definitely. As the game changes on the park, whether he's covering or you want to switch wings or whatever, just to kind of confuse the opponent. It's a really handy trait to have. I mean, look at Greg Taylor changing positions to a striker almost at the end of that finish, wasn't it, against Hearts? But so I think versatile players really suit Ange's system. Probably why Taylor ex midfielder at Kilmarnock, then left back at Kilmarnock. Why it suited him so well. But yeah, I'd start Haksabanovic, but I'd start in the midfield rather than on the wing, because I'd want Maeda out there. I just don't think we can do without his work rate defensively. He gives us so much. Him and Taylor work really well together. Not that Taylor and Haksabanovic don't. I just think there's more experience out of that partnership we've made in Taylor.
That's an interesting one. Jonathan Brown coming in here to say Haksabanovic has to start. His technical ability is vital in the Champions League. An Egyptian king there coming in to say that he believes Kyogo tonight and rest Giakoumakis for Livingston. Ange always says, Lawrence, one game at a time, but I'm sure he does have one eye on what has been a difficult away ground, but hopefully after winning there, I think it was March or April time last season, hopefully we've got that off our backs and can kick on with it. Lawrence, I'm sure anybody watching will have noticed the SPFL title over your left shoulder. I know it's not the real one, but give us a wee bit of back chat how you've ended up with it and your gaff on this Tuesday.
Yeah, Friday night up at Comrie, Oakley Boys Celtic Sports Club night, organised by Paradise Promotions. We had John Hartson and Tosh McKinley there, and just a cracking night. So yeah, after dropping Kev the penalty spot off, it was left in my car, and I thought, better not leave that lying in the back seat. So Kevin's returning from Lisbon today. God knows why he picked there to go to. But once he's back, I'll give the trophy back to him. But I'm sure any clubs out there looking for something organised to get it along, contact Alan at Paradise Promotions.
Yeah, there's a wee shout out for that one. Just in case anybody was wondering if that was a real deal, and if you were maybe, on the road, Lawrence. I know that Stone of Destiny eventually got returned to Scotland, and maybe some people thought that the SPFL title had to be returned to your living room, but that's cleared that one up for it. But while we're still on, because I know you're going to be heading off soon, Maeda, you think you should start tonight?
Yeah, it's just he's worked right, and that understanding he's got with Taylor, it's just tried and tested, isn't it? Getting that goal, he just looks so happy. He's got his rewards for everything he's put in, and I think he's really vital. If Haksabanovic gets moved out and Moy starts, I'm overly worried. No, because I think all three of them have shown they can do it. I would just prefer Maeda over Haksabanovic, and it's probably from the defensive side of the game.
So that drops Haksabanovic into you in midfield if you were picking a team and Moy drops out. That's a fair call. I know some people do agree with that. Let's bring in some comments on Aaron Moy. Beach Boys coming in to say here, it's okay strolling about at Fir Park and Tynecastle. This is elite football. Moy on the bench. I would say Aaron Moy can play elite football though, but do you not, Lawrence? I don't think you're saying he can't. It's just that you prefer Maeda in for this game, but certainly Aaron Moy's going to be looking just now at being in that Astilga squad for the World Cup and wanting to play for Astilga at the World Cup, and the more game time for him just now, the better.
Listen, I wouldn't be worried about him starting at all. People have said, he's slow. Definitely beaten me in a foot race. He's maybe slower than the likes of Maeda, but he still looks fairly fit. He's getting up to match fitness. Any lack of pace or perceived lack of pace, it's certainly made up for in his passing. He's one of the best passers on the team, in terms of that high risk pass, the killer pass. It seems to be able to thread it through the eye of a needle, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does. He's a top player, and you can start to see that now with the assists he's getting, particularly the one with Maeda in the 6-1 game against Hibs. A brilliant ball, really difficult finish, but a great goal. Lawrence, I can't let you go without reflecting a wee bit on new technology. I'm not talking about the new iPhone. It's just recently came out. I know they come out as often that the UK gets prime ministers at this point in time, but let's talk about VAR. What was your thoughts on it first? Because from someone who was in the stadium at the time, I think it was frustration. I even looked over at the really nice, kind Jambos fans to my left-hand side, who looked in awe when their penalty was choked off. There was even one individual with his hands in his head as if, oh no, we're going to miss this. They obviously did score it, but what was your thoughts on the VAR at the weekend?
Well, I suppose the Tony Ralston one, it was a bit of a puzzle one, because the whistle went for a perceived free kick, so VAR shouldn't have been involved at all. But for some reason, the ref had to have a big conversation with the VAR ref. God knows what they were talking about, because VAR can't intervene at that point. So mystifying why there was such a delay when there's nothing else can be done. He's already awarded the free kick. That's it. It's, why it was a free kick's completely different matter. Hearts penalties, I think it worked the way it was meant to in the Carter Vickers one, wasn't it? If it's unclear, if you let play go on, if there's a mistake, it gets called back, the ref goes over and views the screen. Because anything subjective, my understanding is the ref has to view the screen on subjective matters. Matters of fact, where it's an offside, he doesn't have to view it. The VAR ref makes a decision and just lets him know. And we see the nice VAR lines on the screen telling us if someone's offside or not. You can go, right, there's no debate, there's the technology working.
I found it interesting, just to kind of jump in on that, Lawrence, that our good friend to all Celtic fans, Bobby Madden, had he's saying this yesterday on Instagram, and he actually said that it was the broadcaster's fault that we didn't get to see the lines, that those lines are put out, and it was up to the broadcaster not displaying them, which is even more frustrating. Obviously, if you're at the game, you don't see it, but it must be even worse when you're watching it on TV. You see this up, you can clearly say, that's a bit tight, can we see the lines? And they weren't there.
Yeah, really strange. Whose decision it's not being to show them. Bizarre, but we've all seen kind of, I suppose, Twitter stills of people putting lines across saying Abada's onside. Who knows? But the penalty decision, is it hand to ball? He moves his hand out and blocks the ball. I don't even think you needed VAR for that. It's that blatant, isn't it? And they're going,
Ange Postecoglou thought so. I said that before we came on. It's pretty difficult to see, but I looked over at his reaction. He was going absolutely mental. You could tell how frustrated he was with it.
It's hand to ball. You don't need VAR. They're saying, it's probably because his arm's close to his body. Well, yeah, but he still moved out to stop the ball. When watching it, the ref should have went over and viewed the screen. It's better. But I don't think he did that. And I thought subjective matters, that's what he had to do. So you're kind of going, right, that's a subjective matter. Is it close enough or not? Because I don't think they've got, if it's within 15 inches or something, they can use lines and see how far his arm is away. So it's subjective. The ref had to go and look, and he didn't. And as a result, Celtic don't get a penalty. No shot there. So VAR, it worked for some people when it was implemented, and it worked, as far as a Celtic penalty incident, it didn't seem to be implemented properly, with the ref going over and have a look. And how the ref's looking at it, don't think it's a penalty, is mystifying. But more worrying than that was that, I suppose, the offside right to the death. When we're called offside, they look well on, and it gives Hearts another chance to throw the ball into the box. Obviously, no lines, because that's only for tight offside decision. And we looked about 2-3 yards on. And, they looked to get two Hearts centre halves playing it on, and you're going, really bizarre way for VAR to be implemented. But I think we spoke about this before VAR came in. Unless the refs have to come out and explain their decisions, they'll still make strange decisions. I mean, if you went to the refs and said, look, here's the replay, he moves his hand out to stop the ball. What's that all about? And yeah, it's nothing we've not had before, but I think it's just highlighted. I think Hearts and Sutton done really well to call it out and say, it is beating two teams now. They can't say, it's in a blink of eye, didn't quite see it. They've got the benefit of reviews. And it didn't appear as if the ref followed the rules to go over and look at the screen and have the benefit of reviews. But I'm sure the SFL put it down to teething problems. So we could say teething problems that Celtic don't get a penalty. Teething problems that Libby get a guy sent off. I heard Kenny Millen do all this, and it's not a sending off. He catches him on the ankle. It's not high up. Certainly, if it had been a knee-high tackle at Ibrox, there was one the previous week, last man Rangers defender, knee-high challenge, that was only a yellow. So I think it's the implementation of the rules and the lack of transparency that doesn't help. We had a lack of transparency before VAR, and we've still got it just now.
Yep, there is a lack of transparency. Pat coming in there to say supposedly the lines are sent to the broadcaster, who then chooses to either show it or not. And Robert Little's agreeing with you and Lawrence, and would it not be better if someone just said after the game the reason it wasn't handball, and because that feeds into what you're saying about
what's interesting?
accountability.
It's maybe used for penalty area instance, right? Tony Ralston claims for a penalty. The boy comes in and the corner's awarded, but you can't see from the one image where he's collected Tony first of the ball. But there was no VAR reflection. You're thinking, right, if he's shooting for a penalty, surely this is something the VAR should be looking at here. But then again, it's all a potential Celtic penalty.
Well, it's going to be one that's going to be staying with us. Unfortunately, we don't want to really be talking about it each week, but I think we are. We were already given the warning signs by the SFA, Crawford, Allen, Maxwell, whatever, who you name it, they've said it. We're going to have teething issues with it, as they've said, and you don't want it to be the main talking point. And it was a decent game of football. I know people have been saying, Celtic deserve to win the game and whatnot. It could have affected the outcome of the game. I know that Motherwell was another team who feel that they weren't happy towards the end of the game at Pittodrie at the weekend. I'm going to bring in Paul John, who's going to join us. We'll do a Abada Forrest or a Forrest Abada, however you want to see it.
Before I go, the Oakley boys, Steely Boy and Kenny Wilson wanted to say big hello to you, mate.
Good lads out in the villages, Lawrence, and the fact that you've gone out there with the trophy and a couple of Celtic legends, stroke greats, stroke icons, delete as appropriate. They'll really appreciate it out there, because obviously they don't get that much events like that out in the villages, but there's a huge Celtic fan base in the Oakley CSC, as well attended and well supported. So fair play to you and the guys for doing it, Lawrence.
Yeah, listen, great hospitality for them, and we'll hopefully see them again.
Aye,
It was.
definitely.
I'm going to leave you to it. I need to run on.
Good man, Lawrence. Always enjoy
See you
that.
in a bit, mate. Take care.
Cheers.
God bless. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Paul,
What was the
Lawrence was
sub? What was the
mentioning
sub?
there.
Abada for Forrest.
It's either going to be Abada Forrest or Forrest Abada, so take that as you will. I'd probably say Lawrence. Lawrence is you the elder, so he's going to need to be Jamesy, and you're going to be the younger Abada.
The young
coming in.
upstart. Aye.
That's it. You mentioned there, Paul, some guys that you knew. I met another person that you knew on Saturday evening, and Brian McClare, who I know is going to be Axom's first guest at the week in January time. So
Aye.
Chalky was asking for you, and he was his usual self when asked, could we get a wee picture? He said no. He said, don't need to be a big picture, which is Brian all over the back, isn't it?
He's brilliant, Deck. He's absolutely superb. I think back to the first time we did an event was at the Poetry Club in Glasgow, and it was with
Frank McGarvey was there.
Frank McGarvey. And it was brilliant because there was like a wee kind of backstage area which was so far away from the actual venue because obviously SWG3 is huge. And we ended up in this wee room. And I remember what we did because we obviously, no expense spared, we bought everybody a fish supper. That was the rider for the night. And everybody was getting stuck into their dinner. And Frank McGarvey walks in and they hadn't seen each other for years. And Brian McClare just welcomed them with Francis, as Brian McClare would. And it was a great night, but obviously thoughts and prayers still with Frank McGarvey at this time. But yeah, Chalky's brilliant. The event's sold out in January, Declan, but very soon, like within the next week, we're going to be announcing the February event at Gracie's, and we're going to keep that going next year. Get out there and do things live with a Celtic legend. So it's great to see him. I seen the picture, you were looking well, and your other pals, the Bluebells, were in there as well.
Yeah, they certainly were. And Maka was in and about the place as usual, that Frank is. So, yeah, it was a good night. And a shout out to Martin McHugh, Robert Oldberg, his son, and everybody involved on Saturday evening. Nori Innes as well, doing it bad. Really good event, good fundraiser for Bertie. As always, try to keep his legacy going, which the guys at the charity are continuing to do. So, Paul, you know yourself, it's important to do these things. I know you've been a part of many of them, and it's just another wee one. And to also give the guys from the Billy McNeil Commemoration Committee a shout out. It's the weeks are ticking down until the statue of Caesar is unveiled in Bells Hill. So looking forward to that too.
It's amazing the amount of commitment that the people who go on these statue journeys, the amount of commitment required from a small group of people, Declan. We've seen it with the Bobby Lennox guys, haven't we? And various other statues. And the fact that the Billy McNeil one, we had a couple of the committee on Axom way back at Cathkin. So that when was that? A couple of years ago now.
Yeah,
at Cathkin
lockdown
Park.
time, probably 2020.
Yeah, aye, and they came in and we were talking about it back then. So it's great to see it all come into fruition. I love the fact that you have statues for icons, and I've said many times there should be one for every Lisbon Lion in the place of their birth. Some people in the comments come back and say, well, why not have them on the Celtic way? I don't know. I really do think, though, that if you're going to paint a postbox gold for somebody winning an award, get a statue every Lisbon Lion in their place of birth, Declan, because most of these areas can be, high unemployment, poverty on the breadline, and you see this statue and it can be something like a beacon of ambition. That person, Bobby Lennox, Ronnie Simpson, they achieved this, we can achieve that. So, I'm all for it, and I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, I wonder whether they'd put a Jim Craig statue though in Govan. That would be a good one to put up. Certainly, I think Govan Cross would be the perfect place for the big man right beside Mary Barber. I'm sure he would be well up for the wind up that would cause.
Absolutely.
Me and Lawrence were talking there, Paul, about some of the dilemmas which Ange Postecoglou might face tonight. I'm talking about that rotation he's got in his team, and I'll put this one over to you right away. We're talking about the midfield, we're talking about Aaron Moy, and the balances maybe in there along with Hatate. What's your thoughts on this? Bring in this comment here that Will's saying that Moy was decent Saturday, but he likes the look of Hatate, O'Reilly, and Haksabanovic.
I guess looking at the team as a whole, because I like the look at all those four players that Will mentions, and I think you can actually accommodate all four of them. So Moy for me will start tonight. I do think he will start. Looking at that midfield three, if you like, I think it'll be O'Reilly, Hatate, and Moy. I think O'Reilly, Has he surprised a few? Probably. He's been a revelation since he's, shifted position in the absence of Callum McGregor. And I know we keep getting reminded he's played there before, but, we're going into a Champions League game tonight, and it's slightly different from third-tier English football. And I think that is why he's been a revelation, Declan, because he's just taken to it like a duck to water. That step up in standard, he doesn't look ruffled at all. He seems to be taking everything in his stride. Hatate, he's the type of guy who, you've seen his performance against Real Madrid. He can turn it on against the absolute top sides. He's shown that. He's got no fear. He seems to play with no fear. Doesn't matter if he's playing a domestic game and we're beating the team comfortably at home, or if he's up against Real Madrid. He's a player who's going to try things. He's going to take risks. And I just think Moy deserves his place. I think and I know that the rotational element of it is there, but I just think based on his performances, I think he's had one bad game for Celtic. And it was on a day where quite a few players had a bad game. And you made a point earlier talking to Lawrence. I'm pretty confident he'll be playing on the world stage at the end of the year. And Champions League, for me, I think Aaron Moy can do it. I think he's got the head for it. People going about his pace, his mobility. But he's got other aspects of his game that makes up for that, Declan. Unless it's a one-on-one scenario, or he needs to catch somebody, or it's going to be an open goal, I don't think people expose his pace that often. There's a lot of great footballers who pace isn't part of their game, even in the modern day. And I think Moy, O'Reilly and Hatate will make up the three. But I would still play Haksabanovic. But I would play him out wide left. I think the point that was made before about Maeda and Taylor is a valid one. But again, based on form, I don't think you can start without Haksabanovic. And I also like the way that Carter Vickers and Jens have been picking out passes, Declan, to Haksabanovic with great effect. And I think we need to do that tonight. We need to get behind the lines. Sometimes the pass has been quite pedestrian between Carter Vickers and Jens, and then between the two fullbacks, inverted fullbacks. And what they've been doing is they've been cutting through that, and Haksabanovic has been the target. So I would play him wide left. So I'd play all four to answer Will's question there.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think the balance for me, I like Hatate with that balance of Moy. I think it's very easy to forget Rio Hatate's only been playing professional football for 2 years, just through the university system in Japan, and I think he thrives with that wee bit of experience in there beside him. And Haksabanovic, who the manager's even said still isn't where he would believe he is meant to be, along with O'Reilly, who you mentioned, Paul, is still young. He's still developing, he's still getting better at this level. And Rio in there, it's maybe just I'd like a wee bit of experience in that midfield. And I think that Aaron Moy definitely brings that. But one of the questions coming in from Pat here, Pat Dolan, to ask is, do we think O'Reilly should start? He believes that he was out of sorts at Hearts, but the pass to Abada outside the foot was a peach. Abada just missed it. I actually think that Aaron Moy, Matt O'Reilly's taking up this kind of pivot position quite well. I think he's decent, Paul, for me, and just kind of, Celtic relies so much on getting the ball quickly from the two defenders that you've mentioned, and Carter Vickers and Jens, to the forward players, which I think O'Reilly does quite effectively well. He's quick at it, the rotations are good, and I think maybe if you put in a Moise, for talking sake, in that position, you would notice the drop off just in terms of the quickness of the pass.
I think O'Reilly, Pat's talking about the previous game, and I totally get that, because we're talking about form and picking a team based on two things, form and the rotation element as well, Declan. But if we look at the last European game, O'Reilly was the most effective player for Celtic going forward and defensively. And you talk about the on-ball value, which is one of the metrics as well, and he's way ahead of everybody else in the midfield. So when the ball comes to O'Reilly, the chances are it will lead to a goal-scoring opportunity. Or if O'Reilly intercepts or tackles, it's because we're under the cosh. And I think that that's going to be huge tonight. I mean, the mix of O'Reilly, Hatate and Moy, I don't think it was by design as such, because O'Reilly's probably playing out of position in many ways because because McGregor's injured. Moy's playing because McGregor's injured. However, the three of them have done really well, and I think that will be I would be very surprised if it wasn't those three starting tonight. But again, there are other players. I just don't think. But who would you throw in to that midfield deck and think to yourself, I'm 100% confident. We know what some of the guys can do that are on the fringes, right? We know that Turnbull, or the Bull, as he's called by Ange, is back and he's fit, but you're not going to throw a player like him into tonight's game. You're not going to throw James McCarthy, into tonight's game. And Abelgard, as I've been calling him, but apparently his name is Abligor. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works, by the way. Me as well. Abelgard. We'll probably just come up with a nickname for him, Big Ollie or something like that. You're not going to throw him in. So I don't see us starting with anyone other than Moy, O'Reilly and Atati tonight.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Lawrence obviously mentioned that relationship that's developed on that left-hand side with Taylor and Maeda. And Maeda's a great, versatile player. But I just think that on the balance of playing what we've seen, especially in that last Champions League game, we saw away to Leipzig, particularly that survival mode that Ange Postecoglou spoke about. You don't want to see that tonight. You want to see us really go for it. You want to see us recycle the ball well. I think that's something that Aaron Moy does particularly well in midfield. And again, as you say, Paul, I don't think it would naturally came together. If anything, you'd have expected Moy to be playing as a pivot and O'Reilly to be playing in that kind of more forward advanced role just ahead of Hatate, but it's not been the way it's worked, and they seem to be gaining a good understanding of each other. And just I think down to experience tonight, I'd like to keep Aaron Moy firmly in midfield just for the balance of the team, I think.
Aye, definitely. I remember when he came in and some people were underwhelmed, Declan, and we had all the conversations on Axom. And like what you and Lawrence were saying before in relation to Forrest, I just didn't get too excited about it. I wasn't up nor down with the signing. I could see that it was a signing that was a shrewd one. It was what is often called a no-brainer, where you're getting a player of value, free of charge, that the gaffer knows, and he knows, he's not going to start every game, but he's going to be an important part of the squad. And I think that's the reason why Forrest was given his improved deal as well. His extension, Declan. He's come into a game over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to throw this one in as well. I would start Forrest tonight. I'm a big fan of Abada. I'm a real big fan of Lila Bada. But, based on his European performances this season, I think, and what we have seen from Forrest in the past in Europe, I think Forrest just edges it for me. What's your thoughts on the right winger? Who should we play?
I'm with James. Yeah, again, I think his scoring form, getting another goal at the weekend was important for him. And again, I thought when he came on against Leipzig a couple of weeks ago, it looked like one of the kind of sprightly players. I know that word. I know Ange picked up Hamish saying the word despondent. Sprightly is obviously describing somebody who's a wee bit older, but he did look sprightly when he came on against Leipzig. I thought he looked decent. And it gives you, again, that experience that we're lacking throughout the team. Having no Callum McGregor in the Celtic team just now, Paul, I think it's not affecting us, but you can't replace him. But if you can put in some players with experience, I think that's really, really important for games like tonight. And James Forrest has been there, done it many, many times in the Champions League for Celtic and performed too. I would stick with James Forrest. And again, what I was saying earlier to Lawrence, I think it's an indication when he comes off 65, 66 minutes on Saturday that he's very likely to start for Celtic tonight.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen him, I said this during the week, we've seen him growing as a player and as a man.
Not in
as
height.
Well. Not in height. Although we have noticed a great development in his hairstyle over the years. I think he's finally got it just quite right. And, as a player and as a man, obviously, we've seen him developing from 17 years of age. And this isn't a sentimental thing. I just think that he showed against Hearts. Somebody asked the question, was that his first header? I don't know. Have you watched the 101 goals yet? I'm not sure if that's his first header.
I can't mind. I think he might have scored a header once.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But he's shown there and he's shown with a hat-trick. And I think the game before that, where he came on, I thought he looked really, really good. That was against Leipzig as well. So, yeah, Forrest gets the nod for me. And I think the back five picks itself. And really the big debate will be around who you play up top. I know that you guys were saying Kyogo. I look at Giakoumakis and I had a wee chat or a conversation or to and fro on Twitter about the way that you've done all your talking about VAR, so that's fine. I'm quite happy not to go back into that. But I think Giakoumakis, Declan, I think he's targeted. He's a big, strong unit, right? And because of that, a lot of players can't withstand his physicality. So they end up second best. But he seems to be penalised time and time again, Declan. And then when he gets decked or whatever, I often see referees just play on. You know, it's almost as if you're a big, strong lad. You shouldn't be impeded like that. But it's different in Europe. It is different in Europe. He holds the ball up well. I think even when you look at the games last year, Declan, the amount of free kicks that he won for us in Europe, he doesn't get that in a domestic game, I've noticed. So I think that his hold-up play is pivotal. He can really scare defences, and I reckon he's going to run them ragged for 60 minutes. I think he'll start tonight, Giakoumakis.
It's an interesting one. I just, as I said earlier, I think probably for me, I'd start Giakoumakis. I was glad that Kyogo get his goal last week against Motherwell. I think that'll do him the world of good, because he's a player, again, like the team that thrives off momentum. But just due to the fact that he'd played that whole 90 minutes on Saturday, whether that was just down to the manager maybe looking at the game and thinking, I need him in the park just now because he's going to cause Hearts problems. He's a physical presence that's causing them issues, and I need him on the park. But I'm just interested to notice, I would say he's a certain play at Livy on Sunday. And with that in mind, I don't know, the manager's really, really keen in rotation. If that's also at the back of his mind, he will always play down, Ange, that it's one game at a time. But the reality is he's probably looking towards that and saying, I would say Giakoumakis is one of the certs to play the game at Livy. And with that in mind, I just think he might start Kyogo tonight, just due to the fact Paul never played
a decent point.
Any minutes in Saturday.
It's a decent point, and I think that he is built for games like Livingston. As big Giakoumakis, isn't he? I liked his physicality against Hearts as well. When he scored the goal, I was delighted for him. But again, I'm not going to labour the refereeing. But if he is playing tonight, I will watch with interest regarding how often he's penalised, how often justifiable free kicks are given, because I don't think he's getting a fair crack of the whip from the officials. Up here, someone pointed out Big Hartson suffered the kind of same fate because he's physical, so he's not actually hacking the players or fouling them, Declan, but he is getting penalised a hell of a lot. And you see him, him and the refs do have a bit of a to and fro during quite a lot of the games. So it'll be interesting if he is playing, even if he comes on for half an hour, how that is treated this evening. But absolutely looking forward to it tonight. And I'm really positive, because when I look at the European campaign, the only disappointment I've had is against Shakhtar away. That's the game I think we should have won. The other games, you look at it and you think we could have done better, but we created the chances, and Ange keeps going back to that. You were talking about his glass ceiling comments earlier, and I'm totally on his train of thought with that. I don't think any great manager in the history of football has ever believed in glass ceilings. And Ange has got that mentality as well, Declan, and it's a way to go. You think of all the greats at Celtic and beyond. You think of guys like, obviously, Jock Stein, Bill Shankly, Don Revie, Brian Clough. These guys didn't believe in glass ceilings. Imagine telling Brian Clough when he took over at Nottingham Forest, you're going to win. There's no way you can win 2 European Cup, in a row. He wouldn't have believed it, and he didn't believe it, and he went on and done it. And I know that was in a golden age English football. I think they won 5 European Cups in a row, didn't they, English football?
Yeah, Liverpool, Forrest and Villa in amongst it.
Yeah, but Nottingham Forest didn't have any right to do that. But, he didn't believe in glass ceilings. He had a vision and he stuck to it. People say you can't compare Ange to everybody I've mentioned there, but, you can have modern day legends as well. And there's nothing wrong with talking about Ange in the same breath, because he does have ambitions. Will he win a European Cup? Unlikely. But as he said yesterday, no one gave an Australian manager a chance of actually managing at this level, and he's doing it.
No, absolutely not. And he's continuing to, his kind of story in football is continuing to take people by surprise, and he continues to do that, and I think he will, later in his career, still be an ever-present figure that changes things. In terms of this, Paul, this is a kind of interesting point. We'll kind of come on to Shakhtar for the last 10 minutes. The Urban Culture's coming to say that he feels a bit of the pressure is off us tonight, and he thinks that's going to be in our advantage, because Shakhtar, reading their manager's comments, I don't know if you remember back to that game that you're talking about, Paul, the one each drove over there, their manager was in his knees at the end of the game. He's described this game tonight as coming to Celtic Park and pulling off another miracle, as if, Shakhtar had performed some kind of miraculous feat, getting a draw against Celtic. I would say the pressure tonight is more likely on Shakhtar. Even though we're going to the game expecting Celtic to win, and we want us to win, and we're yet to do it in the tournament. Shakhtar will still be looking at trying to get into this last 16 of the Champions League, and with Real Madrid and Leipzig against each other, it's a case of if they can get the business done tonight for them, they're probably home and dry. But for Celtic, I think looking towards next season, even though we're only in October, if we can get a win tonight, I think that'll go a long, long way for Celtic in the Champions League next season.
Yeah. A couple of things there. Firstly, you're right. Shakhtar were delighted with that result after the performance that Celtic put up. And they've got a 1-1 draw against Real Madrid as well. And people are writing off that final game. We'll end up going into that game at the Bernabeu having to get something, Declan. So you cannot believe in glass ceilings. We'll go back to that point. But, I said at the beginning of this campaign that this season was all about next, if that makes sense. It was almost like, let's get the games under the players' belts, because we all know that very, very few Celtic players had Champions League experience prior to this season. Joe Hart being the obvious exception, but James Forrest, Callum McGregor, very few other players had that experience under their belts. So this 6 games was all about, giving them the experience so that they can build on it. Some players won't be able to build on it, Declan. They might just be that wee bit short. But most of the guys like Jota, Giakoumakis, O'Reilly, Hatate, the guys are going to learn. Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jens as well. They're going to learn loads. And if we get that win as well, it's the monkey off the back, isn't it? It's as though, right, we can do this. You go into the next campaign with a different sense of belief. So I buy into that 100%. There's a few injuries tonight, but I would probably say, as well as them having 2 or 3 injuries, so have we. We're playing with at least 2 first picks out, and one of them being our captain. So, I don't think that gives us an advantage as such. But I agree with Urban Culture. I think as much as a game involving Celtic can be pressure-free, the pressure is off a wee bit tonight. And I think we will open up to that and we can express ourselves better.
Yeah, some other comments agreeing with that. Gary's coming in here to say that he thinks that we're going to blow Shakhtar away tonight. No pressure on the players, in his opinion. We need to stop the service to Mudryk. He's one of the guys who I've watched Scotland play against recently, up close as I've been the second time I've watched him in recent months. He's a top player. Scotland managed to nullify him that night. I would hope that Celtic can do it again. Obviously, he was the man that scored against us over there in Warsaw. Pat will be glad to know that Marian Shved is not fit. He thought that if he was fit, he's bound to score tonight. Thankfully, I think he's out the game, so we don't have that one to worry about coming back to bite us in the Bahuki. And Brian coming in here to say that we got a draw away to Shakhtar. We should be confident about beating them at home. I would agree, Paul, and what you said about this game being the one that you're probably most frustrated in. It was the one that we created so many chances in. I said after the game, I think on Twitter, that the size of this game would be dictated by the end of the group. It was dictated after match day 4, after we'd lost back-to-back games against RB Leipzig. I thought maybe we could have kicked on with the confidence. A point away in the Champions League is never a bad result. But you're now looking at this and being the one, I think, for me, that it's not going to define Celtic's Champions League campaign up until now. It'd be great if we can get that win under our belts. I'm kind of already looking forward to next season. And I think for the players to get this monkey off the back, if we get a win tonight, it's going to go a hell of a long way for some of them.
I think it will, and it's been so important. Ange keeps reiterating it, and I think Greg Taylor said it as well. Shutting out the noise. It's so important because what's happened is Celtic have just been lumped in with everybody else's European performances this season, and that's really unfair because if you look at the games that we've played in isolation, Declan, there is something to work on. All the other Scottish sides, you cannot lump Celtic in with their performances, because if I was a fan of any of these other teams who have been involved in Europe in Scottish football, I wouldn't be looking forward to next season. Whereas I think if you take the positives from the 4 games we've played already, then you will be. You'll be looking ahead and saying, well, what is Hatate going to look like with one Champions League campaign under his belt? He's going to be more comfortable, as is O'Reilly and the other players that I've mentioned. I love social media. Obviously, there has been a few moments in the recent past, Declan, where I haven't really loved it that much, but I do love it on the whole. And it popped up on my memories on Facebook, actually, regarding the fact that it was Lazio 3 years ago yesterday. And that's the home game. And the home game, you'll remember, because I never stopped banging on about it, Kevin Graham and I were at the game with Andrew Innes out of Primal Scream. Yeah. And, the word surreal is the only one I can think of. It was completely surreal to be celebrating goals with Andrew Innes out of Primal Scream, a band who are definitely in my top 3 bands of all time. And you know this, I think they're doing some sterling work. I don't know if you've you will have seen the first part. I'm going to bring it up here because there's been a collaboration that Bobby Gillespie's been involved in. And
Is this with Ada Celtic with the jersey?
Aye, it's fantastic, right? So Ada Celtic, first of all, set up the Palestina Delica campaign, and you've seen that popping up on Twitter, and you thought, wow, what's going on here? But then obviously it became pretty clear because they had set up a design working alongside Anon and also Bobby Gillespie, and the design has completely sold out rapid style. It was modelled by the one and only Eric Cantona, and those of a certain vintage.
King.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Well,
I
one
know
of the
you,
kings, I can't just call him the king, there's a few, but he's one of my football idols.
Oh, absolutely. You know, 100%. Even if you're not Man United minded, as I know you and JP and that are, Cantona is an absolute football icon. But, you know, he's got a social conscience as well. And I think that when you look at this, you've got the hoops on the one sleeve, you've got Screamadelica there, you've got Ada Celtic, and then the sponsor, Anon, who have also collaborated on this design. That is completely sold out. And that's no surprise, is it? And you'll probably struggle to get one of these replica jerseys. But obviously, when they do re-emerge, get yourself buying one of them because it's for a great cause. The other thing that the Scream are involved in is they have got involved with the Enough is Enough campaign, you know, and them alongside, so it's Bobby Gillespie and Andrew Innes, Andrew who was at the game with us a few years back, Dexy's Midnight Runners Kevin Rowland and Sean Reid, as well as Jesus and Mary Chain's bassist Douglas Hart. They've joined forces, Declan, to produce a single and a video in support of the RMT's fight against low pay and cuts to jobs and services. So they're currently working on a song called Enough is Enough. How exciting is that? But I just thought I'd bring that up because I know that many of our listeners have the same kind of political viewpoints and perspectives as the likes of Bobby and many of the Axom contributors. And I know you like a wee bit of politics yourself, Dex, so there we go. We're on the right side of politics, aren't we?
Yeah, but we sure are. And, you know, into that conversation, just to kind of give a wee shout out to David Heyman, I was along at his play last weekend. He, as always, David highlights his moral conscience, which is a real strong one. There's a lot of great work with Spirited, his charity, here in Scotland and of course overseas. He's been out to Palestine, he's been to Afghanistan, he's been to many countries, and he, you know, shows injustice in the world, and you know, to me, always is on the right side of history. So a wee shout out to David, who again, and his Playtime's Plague, which is now drawn to an end, highlights the Palestinian struggles in their fight.
Superb actor.
Yeah,
superb actor. And by the way, a fantastic article not that long ago that you interviewed him, didn't you, for a while, and the article appeared in the Alternative View. So, no, fantastic. Take my hat off to anybody that's willing to put their, or shine a light on injustice, and that's exactly what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll wrap it up for there, Paul. Wee comment here coming in to say that wee Bobby Gillespie will be getting his rocks off tonight if Celtic win. I'm sure they will, and hopefully the Hoops are moving on up by the end of tonight in the
I was going to say higher than the sun. Something else rhymes with that, but no, we'll not go there.
We'll not go there. Paul, pleasure as always. Good to catch up with you. Thanks to all our contributors. Enjoy the game tonight, and thanks for joining us on a